Hey everyone, I know it's been a minute since my last upload, but today I am back and we are talking about the direction of Minecraft's summer drop. Because, well, so far this upcoming drop has been a bit weird. It's just over a month now since it was revealed, and with what we've seen with the previous drops, this would usually be around the time when we would have seen new features added to the drop in snapshots, to basically give us a better or more proper idea of what the drop will look like once it is actually released. And although we haven't seen any new content technically or features in snapshots, there have been some pretty significant changes which might suggest that Mojang's taking a different direction with this drop than we may have originally anticipated. Right now, it's a bit difficult to say what exactly is going on or what this drop is going to look like in the final result, but today we're gonna try and figure it out, or at least get a rough idea anyway. For those of you who don't know, shortly after the summer drop was revealed at Minecraft Live, it was leaked, or what I mean by leaked is a Mojang employee accidentally said that the summer drop is going to be releasing in June. And this does make sense with what we've seen so far for the drop release schedule, where drops tend to get released around the start of the season which they are named for. The winter drop or Gardens Awakens releasing in December, the Spring to Life drop releasing in March, and now maybe the summer drop releasing in June. And why I'm bringing this up is because that might make it seem like there's a long ways away until this update is released, so there's still plenty of time for a bunch of things to be added, but it's important to keep in mind that with, say, last drop, the Spring to Life drop, we actually stopped seeing major new features come in snapshots just over a month before it released. So even if this upcoming summer drop does release later in June, then that would still mean that we would stop seeing new features for it added in snapshots probably sometime around middle of May to late May. That's not to say that anything is, of course, 100% guaranteed here. I can't predict the future, certainly, but that is just based off of what we've been seeing with the previous drops. But let's say for a second yours does end up being true, and we do not see any new features for this drop past mid to late May, then that would mean that there are only a few weeks left to see new content added, which honestly feels really surprising, hence why I'm bringing it up now. As someone who's been following the snapshot and beta/preview cycle of Minecraft drops pretty closely lately, this definitely felt off or weird when I came to this realization, but the reason that it seems like we have less time with this drop is because the Happy Ghast features weren't actually released in snapshots until weeks after they were revealed at Minecraft Live. We've basically been getting a new drop every single 3 months lately. One of those 3 months always gets used up for bug fixing and polishing a drop before it gets released, and so that just leaves the other 2 more like 1 to 1.5 months really for new features to be released in snapshots and betas. So losing a few weeks from that 1 to 1.5 month window is a pretty big deal. And the reason that it may feel different this time than, say, Mojang's winter break did after the winter drop was released is because we did see the Happy Ghast revealed early before it was released in snapshots. But anyway, that's the major thing to note here, that there is at most probably around a month left for new major features to be added in snapshots for this drop. Which does make sense to some extent. This is only a drop after all. It is now basically confirmed that this is not going to be 1.22, and instead on Bedrock 1.21.90, and on Java probably 1.21.6. But now it's time to talk about what might be added in that month or so that is still left. Originally, this drop was known to be multiplayer themed, and that is why it's featuring things like the player locator bar and the Happy Ghast. Although in these last few weeks, Mojang hasn't really been focusing on any new multiplayer themed features. That's not to say that they have forgotten the theme. Of course, they have been still making updates to things like the player locator bar, and also some significant changes to the Happy Gas and leads. But with all those changes to leads and the Happy Gas, it does also seem possible that Mojang might be focusing more on exploration or transportation, really, with this update. And so there has been speculation that that might end up being what it's themed around. But it's also important to keep in mind that all of these changes that Mojang has been making with the leads and transportation is also still just relevant to the gas, or Happy Gas specifically. It does connect back to that. So you could fairly make the argument that this is actually just Mojang still working to improve the Happy Gas. The lead changes do make it kind of a game changer when it comes to transporting mobs. Once Mojang feels satisfied with how useful or unique they have made the Happy Gas, they very well might move on to more multiplayer-focused features, alongside probably continuing to update the player locator bar. What exactly those other multiplayer features could be is anyone's guess at this point, really. To be clear here, I'm not saying that it's not possible that Mojang does shift more on a focus of transportation in these coming weeks, but part of why I'm making this video is to remind you all that even though there is a lot of coverage on YouTube right now of this drop maybe being an update to transportation, even more so than it already is, that it's still quite possible that Mojang will go back to the focus of multiplayer with the drop in these next few weeks. The sort of philosophy that I abide by in these types of scenarios is to not expect anything that hasn't been announced or confirmed. Mojang said that this would be a drop themed around multiplayer, and so far there hasn't really been quite enough evidence, in my opinion, to prove that they will be focusing more on a different theme. But anyway, that'll be all for today. I'm glad to be back and uploading again. And if you made it all the way here, thanks a bunch for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and for now, goodbye.